Welcome to A Better Morning. I'm Heather Klein. We debate the trending topics in sports from a sports betting point of view. Let's welcome today's panel. Lead NFL analyst of Fantasy Alarm, Andrew Coop Cooper. The fantasy executive, Corey Parson. Host of Her Story in the Making and co-host of Lightning Round, Britt Flynn. And head of content of Fantasy Alarm and award-winning host on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Howard Bender. Let's get to it, guys. Morning. How are you guys doing?
All right, let's go.
What's going on? Come on.
Glad you could join us, Howard.
Oh, thanks for having me. My alarm just went off.
Bright and early.
I love it. Morning, guys.
All right, first topic. Orioles now only 2 games in the loss column out of first place in American League East. And they are a plus 130 to win tonight at Tampa. Baltimore's Tyler Wells with the start against the Rays' Taj Bradley. Do you put some money down on the Orioles to get the win? Start with Howard first, and let's put you on the clock.
I mean, am I betting at a plus 130? You could. I don't think the Orioles being on a hot streak and being so close to first place right now is really what we should be worried about, what we should be looking at right now. I think that, when we're talking about, betting a team, you still have to, at this point, look at the matchup. It's Taj Bradley. It's Tyler Wells. I'll give the advantage to Bradley. Good, solid strikeout numbers, lots of good swing and miss stuff. And I think that the Orioles, while a strong, powerful team right now, still middle of the pack against right-handed pitching. I don't necessarily know if I love a plus 130 here to take the Orioles. It's still not crunch time yet for me, so I'll probably back off.
Yeah, this is a spot right here listed as not going to be my primary wager this evening, but I am going to get on it now that I've done some research on it, and that research has shown me that your man Taj Bradley, despite having a decent season this year, particularly with his K numbers, the problem with this guy is he's terrible at the trop. He's not a very good pitcher at home. That ERA balloons up to over 7 when he's at home. Tyler Wells has not been great on the road this season. So really the play in this game is taking the over. You want to get a little bit more juicy with it. You take the Baltimore Orioles on the money line, parlay that with the over, give you some nice odds to run back on some more wagers later on tonight. But yeah, the way that Bradley's pitched at home has got me going with the Baltimore Orioles tonight. Shout out to the Orioles. They're getting it done.
Yeah, I think I'm absolutely taking the Orioles at plus 130. Baltimore's won 10 of its last 12 games inside the AL East, and it's 6-2 in its last 8 games against teams with right-handed pitchers. Then you look at Taj Bradley, who has really struggled over his last 3 appearances with an ERA of 5.54, and he's issued 10 walks. That's something that we're not talking about. Tyler Wells, on the other hand, only has a 2.89 ERA. He's only allowed 14 hits and 4 walks. So I think that the Orioles have the pitching advantage here. And then you look at Baltimore's batters. Austin Hayes has been red hot. He's raised his average from 3.2 to 3.27, and he has a career high streak of 5 multiple hit games. And then Aaron Hicks looks really great after coming over from the Yankees and joining Baltimore. So I think I'm absolutely taking them.
Yeah, for me, it's not so much about the Orioles as it is betting against the Rays. I just don't like betting against the best team in baseball right now. I don't care that the Orioles have won 3 out of 4 of these games. I don't care that they won the most recent game. When you look at this Rays team, I think they still are the best team in baseball. You look at it's about betting against Yandy Diaz and Harold Ramirez and these guys. And these guys are even better when going up against righties. So for me personally, I'm either betting the Rays on this one or I'm just staying away. It's not something I'm interested in. And everything that people are saying about, the Orioles are hot, the Orioles have been beating the Rays, all that just screams trap game to me. It's coming back to the Rays here.
I don't think that you can call it a trap game. I mean, the stats just kind of speak to it. And plus, what were you talking about yesterday? If you bet a little bit of money on those plus 150 or whatever little bitty odds, you're not really putting that big of a risk up there. So throw some cash on it, baby.
I side with not me from yesterday, but Corey from yesterday. Sometimes you just got to take the free money, and I think the Rays got this one. And when you talk about statistical trends, all this stuff, that is the definition of the trap game stuff that leads us to say, well, it's got to be the underdog. The reality a lot of times is that the better team usually wins, and that's why the Rays are favorite, and that's why they're the best team in baseball.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, man, I can agree. I like the fact that Corey's pointing out the home road splits for these pitchers. And we definitely need to acknowledge what Tyler Wells is doing. But I gotta line up here with Coop and talk about the fact that the Rays are still the best hitting team against right-handed pitching. They've been that way all season long. Every team hits its peaks and valleys, and we've seen good and we've seen bad, but we've also seen, teams like the Oakland A's, like all of a sudden show up and start winning bets for everybody. And they start coming up, in the clutch with certain things. It's one of those things. Corey, you're wearing the Yankees hat right now. Come on. That's baseball, Susan. How many times have we heard that phrase uttered when we see stuff like that? So while, yes, the Orioles do have momentum on their side, I got to side with that lineup for Tampa Bay. It has really been strong, and it's going to be a tough battle there. I think that this game is much more of a coin flip than it is, favoring the Rays, but I'll still side with that team that's got the power bats.
I think the most interesting thing is that we're talking about the AL East's charity franchises, the Baltimore Orioles and the Tampa Bay Rays, not the big, powerful AL East franchises that run the major leagues.
That's right. Even though my Red Sox suck, I'll be like, yeah, at least we have the money, right?
Yeah, there you go. At least you got the money.
Our owners are more concerned with like every other team they own than our team, but we got the money.
You're going to end up with 4 teams in the AL East that are going to end up in the playoffs. I mean, it's really got that potential, and you see the way everything lines up. I mean, the Central's going to throw one team out there probably, and then you got, 2 teams in the West that'll probably end up fighting it out. So, I think we, the big, bad, powerful AL East, Yankees, Red Sox, not what it used to be. You got to support these key. I mean, I love what the Orioles are doing. Even as a Yankees fan, I love what the Orioles are putting together right now. And, you've got some young, exciting players to look at. And I would be much more inclined in rooting on an Adley Rutschman, than I would a Harold Ramirez. But again, these Rays are just a team that, just the way they're built, it's very balanced, it's very strong, and you got to respect that.
All right, guys, next topic. Tonight, Shohei Ohtani takes the mound against the Angels' crosstown rival, the Dodgers. This season, Ohtani is absolutely dominating as both a pitcher and a hitter. So much so that he is currently minus 500 to win the American League MVP. Tough to make any money with those odds. Is there anyone else worth placing a bet on to win the MVP?
I'll hop in here and start it right here on this one right here. If you're going to place a bet on anybody else, it's going to be the guy who won it last year, and Aaron Judge. Maybe he can get hot currently on the DraftKings Sportsbooks. Judge is coming in at 18-1 to win the award. Yes, Shohei Ohtani is a big favorite, but here's the problem. If I say to the average sports fan, Shohei Ohtani is the leader in the AL MVP race, they're going to pull out their phones and Google who is Shohei Ohtani. I mean, at some point, this guy has to play in October. I'm tired of hearing about this guy being the Babe Ruth or the new Babe Ruth, who was a fictional character itself. And now all of a sudden I never seen the dude play. Majority of the country's never seen the guy play. He don't play in October. He played on a terrible team out west who got 2 of the best players in baseball. So can we give this guy the MVP, please, so we can stop talking about Ohtani, a person that nobody knows?
How do you say that nobody knows Ohtani? I mean, he's the unicorn. He's got the nickname. And he's leading the Angels in literally every single aspect. He's leading in average, home run, RBI, hits, runs, stolen bases. Then he's leading on pitching and wins, Ks, and innings pitched. I mean, how can you say that he's not going to be the MVP? That he could sleepwalk the rest of the season and he would still win the MVP. Brandon Belt is second among the All-Star voting, and he's 1,387,000 votes behind Ohtani. I mean, everybody loves Ohtani, and he's going to walk away with this award. I think if you are going to make a bet, we should look towards the NL and maybe Corbin Carroll, but don't place any money on Ohtani because you're not going to get any return.
Yeah, that's it for me. The big thing when it comes to gambling for me, there's two parts to it. There's either making money or having fun. And with this bet, there's none of that. You're basically betting that Ohtani's going to get hurt. That's bad for baseball. It's not fun. I look at another similar odds bet in the NFL with the comeback player of the year and DeMar Hamlin's minus 500. Like, sure, you can bet against that, but what are you actually betting on? The outcomes are not fun. It's not a fun bet to place. So for me, like, to sit here and say, okay, well, if Ohtani gets hurt, then Aaron Judge is going to win, and then I get, plus 1,800. Like, that's not fun. That's not something that I want to root for. So I'm just staying away from this one. I'm not betting on it either because minus 500 isn't a fun bet. Maybe you can parlay the two together, DeMar Hamlin and Ohtani, and win something.
Yeah, I'm in that same camp. It makes no sense to make that bet. Ohtani is, rock solid. To Corey's point there, nobody knows who he is. I mean, listen, I get it. Maybe, Bob from accounting, who's really excited about amped up for his fantasy football draft coming up this year, isn't really paying much attention to baseball, and maybe he doesn't know. But, I don't think you can't take away MVP status of Ohtani because – ownership isn't going to put enough money on, into the field, and support him. They've tried doing a couple of things here and there to make it happen for the Angels. They are still struggling, both on the pitching side and the depth of that lineup. They're definitely dealing with a number of injuries. But, I mean, to me, it's all Ohtani. Oh, I'm out of time. Come on, man. I got more to say about this.
If Bender talks about the Angels, how about talk about Major League Baseball? Once again, and this is going to be a theme. Once again, guess who's on TV tonight? Not Shohei Ohtani, the Minnesota Twins and the Boston Red Sox. It's the same thing all the time. The reason why people have to Google him is because they do not do a good job of putting their stars in front of people. That's why nobody knows who this guy is.
Oh, my last place Red Sox have a lot of coffee table books still to sell.
I mean, listen, of course, you're always going to get the East Coast bias. You're always going to get the big market teams who are, and I'm not saying Los Angeles is a small market, but I mean, let's face it, that's the Dodgers town. So when you're talking about what you're going to put on the, on TV, that's going to be your biggest media markets of who people want to watch. And they want to watch the Red Sox. They want to watch the Yankees, just regardless of how trashy those teams are. They're going to want to put the Dodgers on there. The Padres even have, that top half of the lineup. So that's MLB. That's the TV networks that we're dealing with here. You can't have that take away from the talent that is on the field. Yes, Major League Baseball is a huge problem marketing itself. Marketing to younger people. We've seen this time and time again with their issues, but you can't take MLB's overall issues and say that, that's going to penalize Ohtani for not being there. If you want to talk about, an MVP who's not getting any kind of traction right now, talk about Corey Seager in Texas. This dude is en route to another MVP caliber season. Maybe he doesn't hit the 33 home runs, but I mean, let's focus on that. Let's not talk about how the MLB doesn't market their players or anything like that. Let's talk about how the national media isn't giving credit to teams like the Rays or the Texas Rangers, the two best offenses
Tampa
around.
Well, I'll jump in here and say it might not be the MLB that gives Ohtani his props, but on every major sports network, before I went to bed last night, who were they talking about? Shohei Ohtani. This morning when I woke up at 5 a.m., who were they talking about? Shohei Ohtani. Like, he is a big name guy in the national market, whether or not you can watch his full game on MLB or any of these national networks or not. His name is still getting put out there.
Well, maybe a way to satisfy all of this, both Howard's points, Corey Parsons' points, and Britt's points, is that they should start doing what they do in the NBA and in the NFL a little bit and say, hey, if your team stinks, then you're not getting the MVP, because how can you be such a valuable player if your team isn't any good? And maybe that will bring a little more attention to the teams actually in first in their division, like the Rays and like the Rangers, instead of the Angels, who are perennially 500, right? Like Mike Trout has 1 million MVP awards and 1 million MVP votes, and he has 0, off-season performance. So maybe that's the way to start doing it. But it's such a big sample size game, they always tend to go towards statistics, right?
Coop coming in here with the mediation.
I love it. Settle down.
We all know baseball's got a huge problem. They've always had a huge problem. Their marketing is terrible. They haven't had a good marketing campaign since chicks dig the long ball, and you can't get away with a phrase like that in this day and era. So, you have to try and figure out a different angle to take.
There it is. Howard said it. Bring back steroids. Let's go. Juice them up.
I mean,
that was fun.
Let's get some controversy.
Sosa versus McGuire was fun. Let's not kid ourselves, okay? That was a lot of fun.
The World Baseball Classic doesn't have a marketing problem.
The World Baseball Classic is electric, dude.
The World Baseball Classic is a problem.
It kind of is because how much everyone loves it. Like,
is an issue. It's terrible. Come on.
Oh, it's awesome.
Ugh.
Guys, the pitch clock has really added though to the MLB attendance though this season. It's surged.
Well, attendance. Let's not do the attendance thing because going out to the ballpark Father's Day weekend, a nice sunny summer day, you can go to the ballpark, take the kids out there, cotton candy, expensive hot dogs, $13 beers if you're going to Yankee Stadium. Going to the game and coming at home and putting the game on your television screen is two different things.
Bingo.
It is, but you know what, though? I mean, I'd like to see what TV ratings look like because I think Heather does make a very good point in the sense that with the games being shorter now, you got less whining and crying. What's the different 3-hour game right now? Now we're like, the action is there. It's a fluid game. I mean, really, what I would prefer, to be perfectly honest, I'll turn on football at home and watch it there because I know I'm going to have a million different opportunities to go to the bathroom and to the refrigerator because you get 15 minutes of action in an NFL game in a 3-hour TV extravaganza. With baseball now moving and grooving the way it is, you got games that are wrapped up in 2 hours, gives you plenty of time to take those sickly kids home and let them go to the bathroom after eating mounds of cotton candy and all that other garbage there. You actually get to spend time with your family now at a ball game. Maybe it's a little expensive, but it's still a much more entertaining package because it is consolidated and the action moves a lot quicker.
Yeah, I don't care if it's, the Rays versus the Angels and Ohtani's pitching for both teams. I'd still rather watch, the Texans play the Lions in the Hall of Fame game with third stringers. Football is always going to be king for me, baby.
All right, guys, let's move over to the NBA. The Pelicans 2019, your favorite, Howard. The Pelicans 2019 number 1 overall pick, Zion Williamson, has been the talk of the town leading into the NBA draft on Thursday. There are trade rumors he could be dealt before the draft. What team do you think would be a great fit for the injury-prone power forward? Britt, you're up first.
So I don't know if any team will be a good fit because I just don't think that he ends up playing. I think that he is one of the biggest busts in NBA history. He's only played 36% of his career games, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Now, that said, if I had to choose, I think that it would be the Charlotte Hornets, especially since Michael Jordan's selling the team. What a way to get a fresh start than trade for Zion. I mean, LaMelo Ball hasn't really panned out, so what better way to rebuild a team than bring in another underperforming player? But all jokes aside, and the big contract that Zion has, I just think that that's a lot of draft capital to be trading, and I'm not sure that anybody really goes for it, especially when they're talking about wanting a number 1, number 2, number 3 pick for him.
Yeah, really, to Britt's point, honestly, when the question is, what team is a good fit for Zion? Well, the hypothetical Zion that we picture in our minds, every team is a good fit for a player like that. Like, if he's playing at his peak and he actually cares and he's in shape and he's, and he's focused and he's not in the tabloids more than he is watching these games from the bench, then he's a good fit for any team. But the way it is right now, you got to be worried, especially when you look at a guy like Ben Simmons, who, ends up giving himself the yips based on all this offseason stuff and not practicing and not playing and not shooting. It scares me, right? But if the way I look at it is the difference between the third and the second pick isn't much. Wemby's going at 1. So if he is going to go anywhere and a team is going to buy him, it probably should be Charlotte at 2.
Oh, is it me? You want me to talk about? Listen, I'll tell you the best fit for our good friend Zion Williamson, and that's the New Orleans Pelicans. He's not going anywhere, people. All of these rumors have all spurred about because there was something said that the New Orleans wanted to move up. They wanted to get Scoot Henderson, and they were going to have to trade either Williamson or Brandon Ingram. And I don't think the Pelicans even want to trade either player right now. Zion Williamson, we saw him play back in December, and the dude crushed it, right? 12 games, averaged almost 30 points a game, over 7 rebounds, over 5 assists per game. I mean, these are rock solid. He shot over 60% from the field. These are great numbers for him. They don't want to move on from him. They want to keep him in there.
Yeah, I think right now Zion Williamson needs to go to a place where he can have trust and safety around him. And I think a return to Carolina and Charlotte would be the way to go. Michael Jordan, not the majority owner out there no more, so they could look to make a big splash to put it together. But right now, Brandon Miller on the DraftKings Sportsbook is minus 400 to be the second pick in tomorrow night's NBA draft. So that would lead me to believe that the Pelicans are going to hold on to Zion Williamson. Now, we talk about Williamson's all the trouble that he's had. Recently on the Bill Simmons podcast, Doc Rivers spoke about how when he got to Philadelphia, he had to teach Joel Embiid that he had to play every night. Somebody needs to teach Zion Williamson that he has to play even when he's a little bit banged up. You can't just blame Zion. It's time for the Pelicans to be held accountable for how they're handling Williamson as well.
I think that's a great point, Corey. Accountability and coaching is such a huge thing, and nobody's ever done that. Nobody has ever put him in the weight room, put him on a treadmill, made sure that he's conditioned, made sure that he can be on that court. And so, yeah, I think that maybe the problem is with coaching.
Yeah, haven't the Pelicans fixed some of the things, right? He had a rift with the medical team, and they ended up getting rid of Nelson as the chief medical officer for the Pelicans because of that rift with him coming, with Zion coming back from the meniscus injury. So they've changed there. There was some sort of a rift. There was something going on there with Teresa Weatherspoon, their assistant coach over there. And I don't know what was going on there, but they went from being like brother, sister to now all of a sudden she's gone and Zion's still there. And I think that's what we're talking about here as far as like them moving on from Zion. They're doing different things like that. I think the Pelicans are trying to kind of fix what's going on in-house right now. And I just don't think he leaves.
Well, when it comes to those types of rifts, though, you have to look at what kind of rift it is. Like, you don't want the Michael Thomas rift where he's like, tweeting things about the staff and saying like, oh, like if I told everybody what was really happening, then it would be all on them. You want the kind of rift that DeAndre Hopkins has with the staff, where he's sneaking out of the locker room to get back on the field when they tell him not to play. Like, you want Jimmy Butler, who is limping around town all day and then playing basketball at night. That's the thing going. That's the situation. Is like, can you teach this guy to have that mindset? I'm not sure if you can.
Every team sides with the player. Every team sides with the player. New Orleans is siding with Michael Thomas. Pelicans will side with Zion Williamson. They'll give him whatever he wants.
All right, guys. Moving over to the NFL. Former Vikings running back Dalvin Cook doesn't seem to be in a rush to find a new team to call home. According to the odds, the Dolphins lead the charge at a 1+150, and the Broncos follow at a +400. Would you take either team's odds, or is there another team you have your eye on? Oop, you're up first.
First, I like getting the game. Tommy's comment in the chat that Zion should he should switch to tight end. That would be beautiful, right? I'd probably move him to tight end 1 right away, as long as he would agree to play, right? But with Dalvin Cook, there's a part of this story that we've kind of swept on the rug a little bit, which is that he still has these legal issues going on. And recently he did make progress. In May, he was able to win a judgment that basically shows that if he wins this trial he's got going on, he can sue the other party for money, which is big. It could end up having this go away, but that's probably why it's taking so long for him to sign, is that teams don't want to jump into this drama until it gets settled. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does take a little while, but I'd love for him to go to the Chargers or Dolphins, especially the Dolphins running behind Teron Armstead and Alec Ingold. That would be beautiful.
Well, I mean, listen, I'll definitely sprinkle a little something on Miami. You know, Dalvin Cook wants to go there. I don't necessarily know if it's the legal things that are kind of holding things up from camp, or maybe it's the fact that we're waiting to see what kind of other things unfold in camp. We see this all the time. Players get hurt in camp, and all of a sudden another team comes knocking at the door with a bigger check in their hand, hoping to make that happen. Now, Dalvin Cook comes from down in the Miami area, and I do think he wants to play over there. I think what's even more interesting right now is the little superhero Marvel team up that we're hearing, that DeAndre Hopkins wants to tag team it with Dalvin Cook and land something there. So makes me even more bullish on Miami now that Tyreek Hill might have a little something issue going on with him. So give me Cook at Miami at plus 150.
Yeah, I think the Miami talk sounds good. Obviously, he's from down that area in South Florida, and you get to play, you get more of your money when you play down there as well. But he's looking to make $9-10 million this season. That market's not out there for him, and it's definitely not coming from the Miami Dolphins. The team that nobody is talking about, who is the perfect fit for Dalvin Cook, would be the team in our nation's capital, the Washington Commanders. I understand that some people may be in love with, you know, Gibson and Brian Robinson, but Dalvin Cook is a better player than both those backs. Now, if you put Cook on that team, they've got some interesting pieces with Dotson and McLaurin. You put Cook, another weapon who can run and catch the football. You put him out there with that young quarterback and Sam Howell to make an introduction of this new franchise. Look for the Washington Commanders to get involved with this Dalvin Cook scenario.
So here's the thing that I'm looking at. Cook himself said, I want the value. I want someone that wants me to be there and give me the ball. And to me, even though Miami is the odds-on favorite, I don't think he'll be a true bell cow back there. I think it's going to be too much of a committee approach. And if that's the case, I really like the Chicago Bears. They're at plus 500 odds right now. They've got a few backs, but Donta Foreman is older. Khalil Herbert can't pass block. And then Roschon Johnson could learn behind Dalvin Cook and develop as a younger running back. The Bears have almost $36 million in cap space, and they could afford to pay both Dalvin Cook and possibly bring in DeAndre Hopkins, who Cook wants to play with. I think that Chicago might be making a run for a dark horse landing spot for Cook.
Those spots, all of these spots are gross. I do not. I want Dalvin Cook to be fantasy relevant. I don't want him to be going to play with the quarterback that tucks and runs if a fly gets into the backfield. So the Bears were dead last in RB targets last year. I don't want him going there. And Corey, I'm not sure how Washington's going to be relevant unless Dalvin's playing quarterback over there. Like
I like Sam Howell.
You like Sam Howell, 5th round pick? He ran like what do you run, 5 flat 40?
Coming into the 2021 college football season, Sam Howell was the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. He's just in a bad situation right now. I think you give him the job, I think he does well.
Yes. You like Stetson Bennett too? I mean, like think about.
I do like Stetson Bennett. It's one back-to-back.
I like any low-key quarterback.
He won back-to-back national championships.
Yeah, I bet you like. I bet you like Ken Dorsey too, right? Like
I love Ken Dorsey.
I like him as a coach, but I mean, college football, we gotta let it go, dude. Tim Tebow ain't walking through that door. The guys, it's a totally different game at this level, and that's why Josh Allen, who sucked in college, goes in the 1st round, and Sam Howell goes in the 5th round. Like the odds are stacked against this
guy. All right, guys, that was today's edition of A Better Morning Show. Thank you to Corey, Howard, Britt, and Coop. And we wish everyone a better day. Have a good one.